Welcome to Duality Gamecast, sponsored by Gladiator Games. Today's episode, The Castles of Mad King Ludwig. Welcome to Duality Gamecast. I'm Matt.
And I'm William.
Today we're taking a look at The Castles of Mad King Ludwig from Bezier Games.
Castles of Mad King Ludwig is a castle building game where your goal is to build the maddest castle possible. Beginning the game, a master builder is chosen, and they assign the cost for the buildings for that round. Then, starting with the player to their left, they can buy one of the buildings here, or rooms. So let's say you want to buy this one here. It costs $2,000, so you pay the master builder $2,000 and attach it to your already built castle. This one's pretty straightforward. It just gives you 5 victory points when you build it. You attach, move up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then the next player goes. They do the same, picking the building they want to do, paying the master builder that much money, and placing it in and scoring. When play gets around to the master builder, and they just decide to build a building, instead of paying themselves the money, they put the money in the bank. After the round is over, the master builder tokens pass to the left. The new master builder draws cards to help replenish this, can reassign the buildings to where they need to be, and any buildings that were there from the previous round, put a gold coin on, so they're worth more when you collect them. Play continues like this until the build deck is depleted, in which case you count up score and see who's the winner. Some things that modify the score are these tokens here. 4 are chosen at random at the beginning of every game. They do things like the person who has the most blue buildings gets extra points. The person with the most square footage of yellow buildings, in this case, get extra points. The player with the most of the small buildings gets more points, or the player with the most completed buildings get points. I kind of rushed over that. It's not just the player with the most, it's the player in each position. So if you're playing a 4-player game, the first player gets 8 points, second player with the best gets 4, third player gets 2, and fourth gets 1. Also at the beginning of the game, each person is going to be dealt 3 of these bonus cards. They give you victory points based on some other secret tasks that only you know. And you can acquire more as you play. For instance, this one gives you 3 victory points for every 400 square foot building that you build. A couple other unique things. When you complete a building, that is when you fill every single doorway on it, it activates, giving you a special power, depending on its color and ability. For instance, green outdoor buildings give you an extra $10,000. Or if you complete a food building, you get to take an extra turn. They're really powerful things that can lead up to chaining combos and doing things in the game. Another thing that you can build is hallways and stairs. These allow you to connect things and go down and up levels, which certain buildings go and build downstairs and certain ones go and build up.
All right, so Castles of Mad King Ludwig from Bezier Games for 1 to 4 players. From the designer Ted Alspach, who also designed Suburbia. William, how do you feel about how this game played?
Like Suburbia, but in good. It ran a little bit, I think, quicker than that maybe did. It has the same type of general mechanic. If you're building stuff, stuff's keying off of the things next to it. But all the tiles aren't the same shape. They're not, and not only that, they're not the same size. They have doors on different sections. So you end up making this kind of sprawling, mad castle as you go. It had some cool things with when you complete a room, you get extra bonuses. So you kind of play the game a couple different directions. You can try to just spread out and get every tile, have the tile next to it, give you a bonus. You can maybe take a hit, but complete something to get some cool combo off of it. And you can also play trying to collect these kind of like secret goal type cards in the game, which can make a big difference too. So it has a lot of interesting kind of directions you can go with it that maybe you had in Suburbia, but in this one I just feel like from the beginning it's out there. The big thing they changed was kind of the goal cards. I'm going to keep comparing this to Suburbia as we go. Suburbia is pretty much whoever got the highest, got those points. And this one, it's first gets a lot, second gets a bit, third gets a little bit, and the fourth gets a 1 point. But it makes competing for stuff not feel like, oh, that person's got me, I'm out. Yeah. When someone beats you, you still can get second place, and there's still competition there. So it made a thing where you, like in Suburbia, one of the big things was trying to tie people or get stuff to try to get those points. And this one, it actually feels like a competition. You want to be on top, but when you come in second, you're like, well, that's not the worst case that could happen. Overall, though, like the general play style is similar to it. It does have the master builder role, which greatly changes it because they actually assign the cost value for everything and rearrange them. and they get all the money. So there's kind of this extra metagame being played when you're the builder, where you're saying, okay, well, I really know that person wants that tile. Do I want to place it up here? It's so expensive they can't buy it. Do I want to place it kind of in the middle range so I'll get some money? Or do I, like, am I more concerned about what I'm going to do and I'll throw it someplace just so, like, at a cheap rate so they won't take what I want? Because when he comes back around to you, as the one who assigns the pricing, you're the last one to buy. So if you put, quite a few times when we played, I'm like, okay, I want this. No one actually wants that. I'll put it cheap. And then I try to screw everybody else over. And then everyone else ignores the tiles that they should get because I made it too expensive for them. So they buy the tile I want. And I'm like, oh, great. Now I can't buy what I want to do. And I'm just kind of stuck here. So it has a cool thing where you can kind of get as greedy and as mean as you want. And it kind of self-balances. If you mess up people too much and they don't buy tiles, they aren't paying you money. Which means you can't buy a tile on other people's turns. Or maybe even that turn. There's these extra little hallway pieces that connect everything and can let your castle really spread out and let you move things away from things that maybe would give you penalties or something like that before. So it has an interesting kind of, it's not as like grid and structured, I feel, as Suburbia. It makes it kind of sprawling, kind of mad, kind of lets you piece things together. I liked it about that. What do you think? Oh, sorry.
I like it too. I like it felt like a lot more options in Suburbia to me. And it felt like there was more angles to approach the game with. The master builder strategy is very important. It's kind of how you generate your income. You can always pass and take 5,000 and not do anything. But to get the big money, to free you up to choose more buildings or have a wider range of choice, placement of the buildings for cost is real important. And trying to outthink everyone, they want that building, they're collecting these buildings, or how can I convince them not to buy this building that I really need? It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. Also, it felt like there were a lot of ways to get points. Not quite victory points salad level, but getting there. You have a score tracker, which is actually useful in this game because you're getting points every time you play. I would say, though, that I could see how it might be kind of easy to accidentally gloss over some points you should have gotten.
Yeah, that could kind of be a thing with Suburbia, too. It was similar to that, where you place a building in this case, a room, and it triggers the room next to it, and then you might have all the below the downstairs buildings all triggered off of just, like, they didn't care if things were next to them or not, so you had to keep track of that. Same thing with Suburbia, and I think it requires a little bit of everyone kind of helping each other out and everyone spotting for each other in this game. Yeah.
Definitely. You got to have a friendly group. Also, we played with a couple people who had never played Suburbia. So, they weren't able to jump right into it. But once they got it, it moved along pretty fast.
Yeah.
The downstairs thing, I know at least one player was struggling with it because you're not physically going downstairs.
A plane. Yeah.
It's a flat plane. You have little downstairs markers to indicate that from there on are downstairs buildings, and all your downstairs buildings have a little icon on them to show you they're downstairs buildings. They cannot be connected to upstairs buildings, but it's still just looking at like a flat map. But it was still a lot of fun, a lot of different angles. I could totally see different strategies being utilized. You seem to be going for the bonus cards pretty strong.
Yeah, it did not work, but yes.
But it helped.
It caught me up.
It helped a lot. So the bonus cards are in-game points that kind of direct your tactics throughout the game, what to choose from, how to arrange things. In addition to the favor tokens, which everyone can play for. And like you said before, you can get points for being second, third, or fourth, so you're not just completely excluded from those. And if there's a tie, you're splitting up points for those too. On top of that, with the economy of purchasing the buildings, you could probably pursue a strategy where you're just trying to spend as little money as possible and just make a really big, low-budget castle and accumulate your money. Maybe you're going to use that to get a bunch of bonus cards. Or a lot of the victory conditions are based on numbers of buildings or numbers of open buildings. So you could try to feed that is on a budget. Or you could go big buildings, or you could exclude colors, which is what I was trying to do, and it worked. I won. It worked, but you could try to just save your economy for a select group of buildings.
Well, there's one other thing that I think I glossed over, which is at the end of the game, if all of one type of building, one size building is completed, each one that you control that size is worth extra points. So one of the special bonus actions of one of the buildings when you fill it up is to take tiles and basically make them the next ones that get played. And what that lets you do is that you can go really super single with it. You can just be like, I'm going to build nothing but this particular size room. I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to focus on it. I'm going to deplete it. I'm going to have that. I'm going to just build my little engine and try to ignore everybody else. And it seems like that could be potentially viable. And that's what I think kind of works with this is that when I played Suburbia in the past, you're playing and you're like, airport comes up. You're like, well, that guy wants the airport. Comes up, that guy wants the recycling center. You know what everybody wants. And this one, I didn't feel like you were that boxed in because there wasn't as much like when you have blue buildings, don't usually key off of blue buildings. So you don't end up with just all blue buildings in the game. Blue buildings keyed off of a bunch of different color buildings, not just even one type. So it's not like you just went blue, green, blue, green, blue, green. So it made you kind of branch out and kept you always able to kind of be more fluid with your strategy, which was cool. But at the same time, I could see someone going, especially if like the blue is one of the big victory points, I could see someone trying to go that route. And like, I think that's what this is all about. It's all about like those little sacrifices of like some type of synergy in the middle of the game for some late game big scoring thing. And it seems like it has that, and it's at a level that you can visualize it and see it. That I sometimes lost with Suburbia because it's just, he has 4 lakes, he has 4 lakes, I have 4 lakes, there's 2 rounds left in the game, that thing's kind of like, that felt way more mechanical. This one feels a lot more loose and kind of like you're building a Mad Castle. I don't know, just more relaxed when I was playing it.
Yeah, I would call Suburbia a much more regimented game. I felt like in Suburbia you kind of had like phases, right? Like different tiles would come in.
So tiles would come in. It's basically, it was similar to this. They would come in though, and they'd always replace and they'd push ones down.
And wasn't there generally like the later buildings had a different effect on the game?
They were usually bigger, yes. Yeah, because there was A, B, and C, I think what it is, and when all the A runs out, you go to B and then on to C. So yes, you ended up like people who play the game now a lot knew generally, oh, there's going to be some airports coming up in this phase, or there's going to be some of this coming up in this phase. People plan for it. And this one, it's a deck of cards that's making things randomly pop out, and so you don't know necessarily what's coming up. And it doesn't have the lake concept in it, which if you played Suburbia, one of the big things is denying people things by laking a tile, which is you can take a tile that's on the board and you take it and you pay the money on it and you put it in as a lake in your thing. It gives you a little bit of money and it takes that tile off the board. So people, dialogue always was like, okay, well, if I'm going to buy this, so now you have to lake that, or that guy's going to get a bunch of points. Yeah. That doesn't happen in this. I mean, you could try to buy tiles if someone doesn't get it, but because there's an intelligent person setting up the build order, it's on kind of the master builder every round to try to regulate that. They took it and they made it this cool metagame where one person's deciding it. It isn't just passing the buck along until the last person has to do it, or they're messed up.
And I guess that's where I felt like we're asked to be more involved in this game. Every go around, you're going to be the master builder once, so you're going to be kind of setting the tone for one of those turns. Where I never really got that with Suburbia.
So now we talked about that. Let's talk about components. Okay. What did you think about it?
I think the look conveys exactly what we're after. Building a castle from different rooms. The art and iconography is simple, but exactly what you need. I know this game gets a lot of pushback from some people because the room buildings are very small and that affects how big you can get your icons to be on them. But if you're playing this game with 4 people, which we did, you're eating up a lot of table space.
Yeah, so, even with the small rooms, you're still getting there.
You're asking for a lot of table space. So I understand why they did that, and it didn't really bother me.
No, it's plenty of room.
The different shaped buildings is cool. We got some of us more than others, but you get into sort of Tetris situations where you have to be careful what you buy just because of how you can fit things, which is cool. I thought that was very interesting. We got a scoring track that's actually useful. Love that. You don't have many other working parts. You've got some very generic money tokens. You have helper cards, which are great. The helper cards are the same card stock as the tiles, which I think you commented on being a little thin.
It's thinner than normal, and it was actually more noticeable after he punched them out. The pieces that were left behind, I'm like, wow, these things are really flimsy.
Yeah.
I didn't really think about it too much with the actual pieces there. I mean, I feel like I could bend these maybe by accident, but it was really more of, honestly, it was after I punched them out, feeling the scraps, and I was like, well, this stuff is thin. But
yeah. The playboard's modular. It comes in, 4 different pieces, which is fine. It fits in the box. Yeah. But to get everything on those boards, you're using the mini cards, which I don't really like, but you only shuffle them really once per game. So
always making that excuse.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, iconography is fine. Art is fine. Cardstock maybe a little thin, but not disastrously so. Completely functional as far as the tiles. I'm satisfied with it. I didn't have any major challenges.
The only complaint I maybe would have is the little round buildings. Because this game is about structures and things can't touch certain spots, and it doesn't come up too often, but there's like doorways can't go into walls. Mm-hmm. Outdoor areas can't touch walls of indoor areas. Because something's round, it doesn't fit flesh, and it's really easy, I think, to get. I can see people getting nitpicky about stuff, and something's cocked a little bit. And you're like, well, it's connected. They're like, no, but it looks connected, but because it's a curve, you're a couple degrees off. I feel like they could have probably solved that by making all the circles into like octagons, like the main starting thing. That probably would have resolved it. But I understand that they're doing a castle thing, and castles have those round turrets on the ends, and that's what they're going for. That's the one thing that. It's not a component problem, it's what the style they're going for, but it's could lead to mechanic problem potentially in the game.
But also, it's kind of the group you're playing with.
Yeah.
I think you settle down, it's a game. But the one other component issue I want to talk about is there's no storage solution provided with this game.
That's right.
Take that into account. No storage solution provided with this game. You get a box, everything comes in on little cut out chipboard things that you pop them all out of. You get one little bag for your tokens, little bag, and that is it. So
nothing
you're either
for the cards even?
Nothing for the cards. So you're just throwing this all in your box, or you're bagging it all up, or something. There's no storage solution. But the price point of this game wasn't super high when I purchased it, so I'm gonna let that go.
All right, so Castles of the Mad King Ludwig. I can never say his last name. For me, it's a love it. It has all the fun stuff that Suburbia had, with a little bit, maybe a more fun theme. I like the building the structure, and you build little hallways, and things get all crazy, and you make fun things. It does something for me that Suburbia didn't. So for me, love it.
The Castles of Mad King Ludwig. I'm going to get a little deep with my gamer comparisons here. So, Agricola is to Caverna as Suburbia is to the Castles of Mad King Ludwig. Maybe not as extreme. But I love this game a lot more than I did Suburbia. It's less regimented. You feel like you have more influence over the tone and the pace of the game. You don't feel like you're just reacting to programmed stuff happening as much. So that just makes it more entertaining for me. I don't know if it's deep enough that I would tell you, oh my gosh, go buy this game. So for me, Castles is a love it. Castles of Mad King Ludwig replaced Suburbia for me in a big way. I mentioned the Agricola-Caverna connection. We want to know what you guys think about games that have replaced other games. Give us some in the comments below. And thank you very much to all these people for helping us with this video today.
Okay, so Castles of Mad King Ludwig. Did I say that right? Ludwig?
Ludwig.
Alright.